Hi guys, it's me Ty here, and today I'm going to talk about how we got the worst bolt out of a truck that I have ever ran into in my life. This bolt, it was rusted and it ended up breaking off, and it was a big freaking bolt too. So, um, I'm gonna get to exactly how we got to it in the end, but I'm gonna tell you guys the whole story so that you guys understand all the other methods. Because like if one isn't working for you, you'll have to you have to try something different. And every bolt that you ever encounter, they're each gonna require a different method. So it's best for you guys to hear all of it. So this is what was going on here. We were working on a Volvo dump truck with a big cat diesel engine in it, and my boss wanted to change out the motor mounts on it. And with that, it's got two motor mounts, one on each side of the bell housing on the transmission. So we went to the passenger side, and the motor mounts actually come out in three different pieces, and that didn't go too bad on the passenger side. But then when we moved on to the driver's side, there was a lot less room. Like the clutch linkage was coming out of the side of the bell housing on the transmission. That was getting in the way. The wiring harness, a lot of air lines were in the way. Um, so and it was pretty much all inch and an eighth bolts running on all the brackets there, and they were tight. I don't know if they've ever been off. So a lot of the stuff there, we couldn't get sockets on it, so we used an inch and an eighth box end wrench, and then we just stuck another wrench on it as a breaker, and we got them eventually. And so we got two of the brackets out on the driver's side, and there was one bracket left, and it has four bolts that run into the side of the transmission bell housing, and we were able to break three of them loose. We got those out, but the final one, it just didn't want to come. So my boss, he's got a nice snap-on air hammer, and he did use the chisel end, and he was chiseling on it every which way, trying to just wake up the bolt because what you have is you have rust in the threads, and he actually bit into that darn bolt head probably an eighth of an inch, and it still didn't move. And um, so he ended up getting a really long, like 3 foot long snap-on ratchet. Um, and he got ended up getting enough leverage on it, and he ended up breaking the head right off this inch and a half, inch and an eighth bolt. And it probably took out um, maybe a quarter inch of threads with it that came out of there. So the boss told me, is like, yeah, go ahead and get that bracket out of there or whatever. And I was like, hey, we still have this bolt rusted in there, or in there, and the threads are in there. He's like, yeah, there's no threads inside the bracket. They're just inside the bell housing is where the threads are. And I was like, okay. So I went ahead and I took a long, probably like 2.5 foot tire spoon and pried on it, and all the other angles of that bracket came loose except for where that bolt was. There was just so much rust built up inside of there. So what I ended up doing is using his snap-on uh, ear hammer with a really long chisel on the end of it, and just ran it between there, and it just pried the bracket right away from the transmission bell housing, came right out. It was really nice. But then when I saw that bolt shaft sticking out of there, it was probably an inch and a half worth of bolts sticking out of there with all, and it was all threads, and it was just so rusted. It looked like had been in the New York rust belt. It was that bad. And my boss like, yeah, just throw some penetrating oil, spray some penetrating oil on it, and get a pipe wrench on it. So I got probably an 18-inch pipe wrench on there, and I didn't have any leverage room there. It was just so darn tight in there, and when I could, it would slip. Once it would bite, it would maybe grab like make a quarter of a turn of grab, and it was actually just slipping there. So then I got a little like 6-inch pipe wrench, and I just couldn't get enough leverage with it. It would bite, but I couldn't move it. So my boss came out there, and I was like, I think that we need to add heat to it. And my boss, he was really against it because he's like, there's some oil leaks on there, and he's like, have you ever had an equipment fire? And I was like, well, not doing this. And he's like, yeah, that. He's like, you'll think differently about that. So um, what he ended up doing is instead of he went ahead and he took his brazing tip on the oxyacetylene torch, and he set it for a neutral flame, and he heated up that that bolt stud until it was red hot. The entire thing was just red hot. And then he took that off, and we put the pipe wrench on, and we still could not break it loose for nothing. And I was like, I think that we just need to keep heating it up because this has always worked for us over the years. So he probably heated it up probably 5 times, then up to cherry red each time we put the pipe wrench on. It wouldn't do it. So then he got some Kroil penetrating oil, because he'd been looking for a candle. Because when I was in college, I remember one of our mechanics or our teachers there, he told us that uh, just candle wax works really good. Like if you have exhaust studs stuck in a manifold, you can heat them up with a torch and then go and press wax up against it, and it'll suck the wax up into the threads there. And I've tried that before, and it didn't work for me. If anything, when I have gotten a few threads out of there, because I did try it one time, I think it was just the heat that was working. And then as soon as it starts cooling down, then it gets hard to turn again. You got to heat up the stud again, and then you can make a few more turns and everything. So yeah, the boss, he was spraying some penetrating oil, and I heard that from my brother that Kroil, Kroil, is the best penetrating oil, and he likes to heat up around the stud and spray that on there, and it looks like it's just vaporizing, but it's actually getting sucked into the threads, and you don't pour any water on it. You just let it cool down naturally, and every few minutes or whatever, every little bit, spray some more penetrating oil on there. Well, my boss didn't have any Kroil, but he had some other stuff, and it still didn't help us. So what we ended up having to do is he ran down to Harbor Freight and he bought a little chain hoist, and it's got the handle on it, the crank handle on it, and the lengths on all the chain of it is only like 1/8 of an inch chain is what it is. He said it's only rated for 500 pounds, um, and he doesn't remember how much he paid for it, probably $80 or whatever. So what he did is he took a bolt out of the top of the engine, and he used that bolt to hold down. He put a lifting eye on the engine, and he hooked the main part of that come along that chain hoist onto there, and then on the other end where we had our broken off bolt stud, he went ahead and he got a good grip on it with probably a 12-inch pipe wrench, and those come-alongs, they have like pelican hooks on them or whatever. He went ahead and he hooked that onto just slipped it over the handle of the pipe wrench, and he started cranking on it, and it came right off. It needed something to hold it on there. So what he ended up doing is he got a good bite with the pipe wrench. He went ahead and he took the pelican hook on the chain, and he went ahead and he stuck it over the handle, so the handle was going up through the pelican hook, and then he probably got like a 3-inch long, eighth of an inch, eighth inch thick bolt. No, he didn't have a nut or anything like that, and he stuck that through the hole in the handle of a pipe wrench, which you use for hanging your pipe wrenches on the wall in your garage. And he was able to hold it just at the head and the very bottom tip of the bolts were grabbing up against that chain, and he had me apply pressure, so I was cranking on there until we just had some tension on it. And then he went ahead and he heated up the bolts again until it was red hot, and then he had me start cranking down on it, and sure as heck, it started slowly moving by it having pressure, steady pressure on it, holding it like that. And um, then we'd have to reset it each time, and he'd have after, because we just had short little strokes on there, and it took a long time to do it, but at least it was moving out of there. So, and then when it got too hard and the pipe wrench would start slipping, it just meant that that bolt was cold. So then the boss would have me put it back on there, apply tension to it, and he would heat it up red hot. So the entire thing was like a cherry, and we just kept doing that until we got it out of there. And I talked to one of my buddies. He hired a mechanic to work on his dump truck too, and they had to change the motor mounts, and he hired a heavy equipment mechanic to come out there. And he said that heavy equipment mechanic had so much trouble with those motor mounts too. He had his air hammer, and he was beating every which way on that bolt with it, except his air hammer had the flat head on it. Um, we were using one with the chisel or whatever, and he was working every which way trying to shake up that bolt, trying to break the rust within the threads. And he was using a torch, and yeah, he fought that for hours and hours too, he said, but he eventually got it. So those are all the techniques, and that's what worked on this. And like I said, an inch and an eighth bolt, that's a pretty darn big bolt. So I hope this helps you guys. If you guys like this content, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll just keep kicking out these repair videos and videos about saving money of traveling Asia. And just, yeah, anything about saving you guys money so you guys can have a better life. All right, take care. Bye.